evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Wynna Wong. Here's a look at some of tonight's top stories. New COVID cases in Hong Kong remain above 100 for the 6th day in a row. Relief and some complaints at the end of a 7-day lockdown in virus-hit Yat Kwai House. And the English oral test is scrapped again in the university entrance exam. Health authorities are concerned about COVID outbreaks in several schools, an occurrence which they noted was not seen in the city's previous waves. They also reported a number of untraceable COVID cases today. On the 6th straight day with new COVID cases in triple digits, the Center for Health Protection announced 6 untraceable infections. 5 are believed to be Omicron, while 1 is Delta, with a genome sequence very close to that of the hamster cluster. They are 3 men in their 30s and 40s, 2 retired women, and a 10-year-old girl who goes to the Holy Cross Lutheran School in Chun Wan. Authorities are also continuing investigations into the Hakka Cuisine restaurant at the Lions Rise Mall in Wong Tai Sin. It turns out 2 more confirmed cases had visited the eatery last week. Hakka Cuisine was already related to 2 other earlier cases. The CHP also announced several new school clusters. An outbreak involving up to 9 people at the Union Institute No. 3 Secondary School in Changkwano is believed to have started from a Form 5 student. The female student lives in Yat Kwai House in the beleaguered Kwai Chung estate. There is also another cluster at the CNEC Li Yiyao Memorial Secondary School in Kwai Chung, involving 5 students and staff. All of the school outbreaks are spread across different forms and classrooms.
As compared with the previous waves in the 3rd and the 4th waves, we note that previously we seldom see school outbreaks, even though we have been very cautious about the contact tracing and quarantine. But now, even those settings when they sit in the classroom and have exams, so we supposedly they did not interact with each other, and there is still transmission. So it is likely that the Omicron is very infectious.
In total, there were 115 cases today, 111 of which are local. A 7-day lockdown of Yat Kwai House in Kwai Chung has ended. While residents were happy that they could leave the building, many complained about losing money because they couldn't go to work. Maisie Mock reports.
The 2,700 residents of Yat Kwai House in Kwai Chung Estate breathed a sign of relief this morning at the end of a 7-day lockdown, the longest so far as Hong Kong battled COVID. The building was sealed off after it was linked to more than 20 infections triggered by a super spreader who entered the rubbish collection units to scavenge for items to sell. To make up for the inconvenience, they were given gift bags by the government containing delicacies such as abalone, mushroom, and Chinese sausages. This woman was happy that the isolation ended before the Lunar New Year, but said she was afraid she would be infected when her building was sealed off. She recalled sharing the lift with others when going for tests and suggested that the government should provide different time slots for residents. This man was angry because he was not given sufficient sanitizers, adding that he was not told how to obtain a sick leave letter. Some residents said they had been hit in the pocket. This freelance worker lost 1 week's pay and is worried that he might not be hired because his public housing estate is seen as a COVID hotspot. A 5-day lockdown was imposed on Yat Kwai House last Friday and was later extended for 2 more days. The government conducted more than 14,000 tests and detected 139 people with COVID. The Federation of Trade Unions, meanwhile, has been contacted by 70 people from Kwai Chung estates seeking help. They included one person who was dismissed during the lockdown and 22 people who were told to take unpaid leave. The Federation urged the government to provide subsidies of $700 a day to those who missed work during the lockdown and distribute sick leave letters so that workers can claim their sickness allowance. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The risk of contracting COVID has prompted officials to cancel the English oral test in this year's university entrance exam. But the move is not expected to affect the scores of those taking the exam. Here's Maisie Mock again.
There won't be an English oral test in this year's Diploma of Secondary Education exam. The Examinations and Assessment Authority says students sitting closely together in the same room will pose an infection risk.
Due to the pandemic situation and the public response to the current situation, we decided to cancel the English-speaking test now. In view that SBA already covered the English-speaking ability of the candidates, they still have the opportunity to demonstrate their English-speaking skills.
This is the third year in a row that the English oral test has been scrapped in the university entrance exam. With the speaking test cancelled, the score weighting for the reading, writing, and listening papers has been increased. The exam authority said dropping the oral test will have only a small impact, as past research showed that those who scored well in English speaking performed the same in other English papers. Due to the epidemic, the practical exam for physical education and music has been postponed from March to May or June. Over 50,000 Form 6 students and other candidates are sitting in this year's DSE exam. The authorities hope that the written test will begin as planned on April 22. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
There's been another jump in COVID cases on the mainland, with 39 locally transmitted cases yesterday. 16 were in Hangzhou, which has become a new hotspot. Some residents of Binjiang district were taken away in coaches to quarantine centers. Beijing reported 8 more cases ahead of the Winter Olympics next Friday. There were also 12 new infections among games-related personnel. 10 of them were arrivals at the airport, while 2 were discovered among those already in the closed-loop bubble. In other news, 11 people have been found guilty of rioting in Wong 2 years ago and will be sentenced in March. A police vehicle took 8 women and 4 men to the district court this morning. They were accused of taking part in a National Day protest in 2019, blocking roads and throwing petrol bombs at police. The defendants were found with metal rods, laser pens, and first aid kits when arrested. Judge Edmund Lee said the objects used to obstruct roads were not small, and he believed that 11 of the defendants were not mere passers-by. A woman who was wearing a skirt and carrying 2 surgical masks when she was arrested was acquitted. Hong Kong's air quality in the past 2 years was the best in a decade, according to the Environmental Protection Department. Roadside pollutants were reduced by up to 58%, but nitrogen dioxide increased in the past year, especially in Mongkok and Causeway Bay. The Environmental Protection Department said the number of typhoons and the COVID situation had an impact on the figures.
The first impact is on transportation. It reduced the amount of vehicles on road. It reduced the amount of transportation due to the good lorries. Even marine shipping, it reduced the flight and aircraft travel. So it reduced a lot of emission in the transportation sectors. And definitely the impact in 2020 is much higher than the other year. So that's why we see a bounce back in terms of the NO2 level, because in 2021, we could not say that we're back to normal, but it's definitely at a higher level as compared to 2020.
One of Hong Kong's oldest travel agencies, Morningstar, has gone into voluntary liquidation. According to its website, a first meeting with creditors will take place on February 16th. Morningstar Travel was once one of the biggest travel agencies in Hong Kong, with several branches in the city and Macau. The 50-year-old firm was bought by Chinese property developer Fantasia Holdings Group in 2015. In 2020, Danish travel company VOS filed a winding-up application for Morningstar as a creditor. Around 150 employees are believed to be affected. An extra layer of clothing and an umbrella may be handy this weekend and during the Lunar New Year break.
A cold front will move across the coast of Guangdong from Saturday night to Sunday morning. Local winds will pick up from the north. The associated cold air will affect us. Local temperatures will fall appreciably. It will be windy with rain during the Lunar New Year holidays. Without much sunshine during the day, you may feel rather cold. Please be prepared to wrap up warm for the Lunar New Year.
3 people have been injured in a Fourvehicle pileup in Cam Tin. A car, 2 container lorries, and a motorcycle collided at around 10:40 this morning on Cam Tin Road as they were heading towards Yuen Wo. Firefighters rescued 2 people trapped in the vehicles. They were taken to hospital along with a motorcyclist who was also injured.